What's up guys, good morning. I thought I would take the Steve Reeves Hercules Jaguar out today. I try to drive it about once a week. It's such a nice day, a little overcast and cool. And there you go. There is the view that Steve Reeves was having when he was driving this bad boy. So this is a 1976 Jaguar XJS V12 and it has 58,000 miles on it. It's 45 years old. I think George bought it in 1999 and sold it around 2008, and then Joe had it from 2008 to 2020. And so in that time, only 2,000 miles were put on it. Amazing, huh? It's like 100 miles a year in that period of time. So I wanted to update you on some things while we drive around a little bit. Number one, I think the most exciting thing is that I had a chance to talk to Reg Park's son, Jon Jon Park, a few days ago. Jon Jon Park, bodybuilding royalty. And so he had gotten wind of my Steve Reeves YouTube channel. And thank you guys for all your support. I'm having a blast making these videos. I was given Jon Jon's contact info, and so I emailed him, and we emailed each other back and forth. And then I got his phone number, and I had a chance to talk to him on the phone for about 45 minutes. Awesome. I had watched a few videos of Jon Jon first, just to kind of get a feel for him. And one of the videos that I watched was Oscar Heidenstam's Reg Park Hall of Fame. Reg Park's Oscar Heidenstam's award ceremony in 1993, the year before Steve Reeves was inducted. And sorry about the camera if it's tilted, but try to make the most of it here. And so in that Reg Park Oscar Heidenstam awards ceremony, Jon Jon went with Reg and his mom to the ceremony, and he got to give a speech about his dad. And Jon Jon was about 33 years old at that time, 1993, somewhere in there, in his early 30s. And I was impressed by how well spoken Jon Jon was, and how he was able to command the audience with his speech. We're gonna find a place up here and pull over, and then I'm gonna film the Jag at the same time I'm talking. Alright, I parked the Jag out here and took it off the tripod because I'm going to get this set up the right way so that we can do some driving around, but the camera kept falling over, so that's probably not going to look too good. So I'm going to talk while I'm showing you the Jag. So I got to talk to Jon Jon on the phone for about 45 minutes, bodybuilding royalty. And, you know, that was a highlight moment of my life because I have been bodybuilding since 1985. And, you know, nobody knew me from Adam. So to find myself here in 2021 with Steve Reeves' Jaguar that he owned from 1977 until around 1999, 22 years, to being able to talk to Jon Jon Park on the phone and just talk bodybuilding and just talk shop. It's just been an amazing journey, and one that I hope every single one of you guys gets a chance to experience with whatever it is you're passionate about. You know, life is short, blink of an eye, and so if you can get to know some of your bodybuilding heroes and collect some of your bodybuilding heroes memorabilia, it just makes life that much more sweet. So I had seen Jon Jon Park in the video with his dad, and the speech that Jon Jon gave was so funny, and I reminded Jon Jon of that on the phone when we talked. And what it was is that they had gone to New York City, Reg, his mom, Jon Jon's mom, and Jon Jon. And this is when Jon Jon was younger. I can't remember what he said, 10 years old, somewhere in there. And they were in New York City, and there was a convenience store. And so Jon Jon went into the convenience store, and he saw a sign that said, Reg King. And so, you know, he automatically thought, that stands for Reg Park, the King, Reg King. And so he goes up to the counter and asks the guy behind the counter about Reg King. And the guy behind the counter says, not Reg King as in Reg Park the King. And in that speech, the 1993 Oscar Heidenstam Awards for Reg Park, Jon Jon had the room in the palm of his hands. They were just laughing uproariously at some of his stories, including that. Something else that we talked about was Jon Jon meeting Steve Reeves in the early 90s. It must have been around that same time, 93, 94. And this was in California. And I believe Jon Jon said it was at one of Steve's good friends, a doctor. And I don't know the name offhand. But Reg was there, of course, Jon Jon, and Steve, the doctor. And so that was Jon Jon's only time to meet Steve. And I asked him about that meeting, and he said, you know, Steve was very, very friendly. He had a star quality about him, and he still had size, you know, just 6'1", over 200 pounds, and still commanded, you know, attention with his size and just his star quality. And so that must have been a lot of fun for Jon Jon to be able to meet Steve, because of course Steve would pass away just 6 years later in 2000. And then Jon Jon also told me about meeting John Grimmick. Twice he met John Grimmick. And he said that the only one he didn't meet that he wanted to meet was Clancy Ross. Clarence Ross. He never got to meet Clancy Ross. And of course Jon Jon knows Arnold very, very well. Jon Jon is around 67 years old, and Arnold is in his mid-70s. So there was only about an 8 year or so age difference between those guys. So Arnold must have seemed like a big brother, perhaps, to Jon Jon, because of course Arnold was, you know, because Arnold's hero was Reg Park. And so the story goes that Arnold said, when will you bring me to South Africa, which is where Reg and his family lived. And this took place over in Europe somewhere, and Reg told Arnold, when you win Mr. Universe, I'll bring you over. And so Arnold, of course, that's all you needed to do is set a goal, place a carrot in front of the horse with Arnold, and he was all over it. So he won Mr. Universe, and then he started coming out to South Africa on a regular basis to visit with the Park family, and Jon Jon got to know Arnold very, very well. So last thing about Jon Jon is we're going to definitely stay in touch You know, Jon Jon has so many great stories growing up with his dad and his mom, and all of the stories, just a couple that I just shared with you, meeting Steve Reeves, John Grimmick, of course, time with Arnold. Jon Jon trained with Bob Paris back in the late 80s or early 90s, and you know, Bob Paris has been compared to Steve Reeves in a lot of ways. So those two trained for about 6 months together, so he's got tons of stories there. Jon Jon was at, you know, in Venice and Los Angeles, California during those days of bodybuilding, so you know he's got a ton of stories. Like, you know, what was his training like? Did he train just like his dad? I know Jon Jon competed and did very well in bodybuilding, won some titles. And then at some point, he and his dad had a discussion, and his dad told him he wasn't sure how much success Jon Jon was going to have in bodybuilding, because by then drugs were rampant in bodybuilding, which Jon Jon was adamant he didn't want to use. So there's so many stories, and so I was encouraging Jon Jon to write a book, series of books. You know, let's hear about your time with your family. Let's hear about your time around some of these bodybuilding greats. Let's hear about your training. Let's hear about your time in California. Let's hear about your time as a highly competitive, highly ranked, competitive swimmer. And then what is your life like now? You know, Jon Jon owned a gym or two or more, and what's he doing now? Well, he is training people still, highly in demand, and you know, his training methods are really, really unique. Nobody, and I've been doing this for 35 years, gets to know their clients from the very get-go like Jon Jon does. And I'll let him tell you about that. I'm going to have him on. We're going to do a YouTube video. Anyway, so there you go, guys. Just to drive around the neighborhood here, checking out the Hercules Jaguar. I could talk all day, but, you know, I got to get this bad boy home and get this video up. So thank you for your support, guys. And thanks to Pat Henry for the great Steve Reeves interview. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, check it out. The video is on this YouTube channel. You're going to get closer to Steve Reeves and get to know Steve through this YouTube channel with input from guys like George Helmer, Jon Jon Park, and you know, every day, every week, people that knew Steve are contacting me with stories that I had never heard before. So you're going to be hearing all of those as well. And so I would love to have you as a subscriber. I'd love to have your support. And, you know, let's keep that Steve Reeves Hercules memory alive. Right now in bodybuilding, you know, a lot of bad things going on. Shawn Rhoden just passed away. IFBB Pro Mr. Olympia, Shawn Rhoden. Did he really need to die? You know, I mean, come on. Bodybuilding is great, but there's nothing better than doing it naturally and feeling the energy, the natural energy after a great workout, that pump, and then knowing that you're natural. You can do so much for so long. I'm 57, and you know, my strength is still there. I'm certainly not using anything. And you can keep that testosterone high by doing compound lifts, deadlifts, trap bar deadlifts, squats, all different kind of squats. And then just following a good diet. So Steve did it, Jon Jon's doing it, of course Reg Park did it, Arnold's doing it. So I don't know how to change bodybuilding. People ask me, what do you think? And I don't know that we'll ever go back to, you know, this era the golden era, the silver era, but maybe with like a grassroots movement where we just keep talking about how great that time was. And, you know, I love it when I've got 70, 80, 90-year-old men contacting me, you know, who just saw the Steve Reeves interview by Pat Henry and Tony Gwynn and Quinn, and how happy it made them to see Steve, who they never thought they would see an interview like that. There was one man, 92 years old, and it was his son or grandson. I'm sorry if I can't remember, because he's a subscriber on my YouTube channel, and he contacted me through my YouTube channel and said that his dad or grandfather, 92 years old, perked up when he saw the Steve Reeves interview by Pat Henry and Tony. So man, that just makes me so happy. 92 years old, you know, he's not interested in bodybuilding with what's going on right now. He's interested in that magical time, 50s, 60s, 40s. So let's keep all that stuff alive. All right, guys, this is Scott York. I'm gonna get this bad boy back in the garage and get on with the day here. Hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you next time. Take care.